Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. And there is some breaking news that I have to get to you. Not regarding a race team, but with a track. Atlanta Motor Speedway has just announced, at long last, and literally it's about time, that Atlanta Motor Speedway will be getting repaved starting after this upcoming race weekend in Atlanta for the Quaker State 400 presented by Walmart. Atlanta will be at long last be getting a repaved job. So was just chilling out today, and then I saw the news that on jski.com that through Bob Progress that Atlanta Motor Speedway has announced that the facility will be getting a redo, a makeover, as they are repaving the track in preparation for both races next year and the coming of the next gen car. I cannot stress this is very important, and this is really good for Atlanta Motor Speedway. I know the drivers, they love to slip and slide around the old service, but, let's face it. This track eats at the tires like crazy. Just like the snap of fingers. They're good for 5-10 laps, and after that, you just gotta hang on and just nurse these things, or else they're gonna fall apart, and they're gonna blow out, and you'll probably hit the wall really hard, or just spin around on the racetrack. So this is pretty big for Atlanta Motor Speedway. So let's take a look at the details from Bob Progress. Atlanta will repave. The banking in the turns will be 28 degrees. Originally it was 24 degrees, so they're going to go 4 degrees higher on the banking on this mile and a half, and that's the biggest banking for a mile and a half track out of any of the tracks that we have on the circuit. Bigger than Texas, of course, they flattened it out, and the racing there's just been kind of meh. Kansas is a little about the same banking, like 24 degrees. Same with Charlotte, and other facilities as well. But this one is it's a unique track. It's a little bit bigger mile and a half track than what we have than your Charlotte or your Texas tracks, and even Homestead, which is a little different. It's just an oval and not has like that kind of D-shaped look with a little flat part of the front of the D. All things aside, the other thing they'll be changing is that the straightaway banking will remain 5 degrees like it normally is on the front stretch and the back straightaway. However, the track is going to narrow up a bit. It also says the racing surface will become narrower with an overall decrease in width from 55 feet to 40 feet. That's subtracting 15 feet. That's a good amount of feet that we're getting rid of. The feet on the front straightaway will shift to 52 feet aside from 55 feet, and the back straightaway will shift to 42 feet, and the feet in the turns will be 40. So the track is going to narrow up, and they did a little. If you go to jski.com or probably NASCAR.com, you will find a picture with the iRacing cars on it to see what Atlanta Motor Speedway will look like with the repave in the corners. And I can tell looking at it, it's a little narrower from what it normally is. Now, what this also means is which lanes will drivers choose when it comes to restarts. I got a good feeling with this repave. As I put my phone down, no more will drivers on the outside lane on restarts on the front row fall back, a couple spots because they don't get a good restart because the track doesn't have a lot of grip for restarting at the top of the racetrack. Normally you want to be on the bottom, but after you get on the restart, you kind of want to take that third lane higher on the outside lane to try to pass guys off of turn 2 to get a good amount of momentum. You're not in the throttle as much, although with the 550 package you probably can be in the throttle because it doesn't really involve a lot of braking. But with this rejob coming up, that drivers will no longer fall back on the start on restarts or the start on the outside lane, though that remains to be seen, especially when we have the next gen car coming up. We'll see how restarts fare with those cars. But it also means that the track's going to be a little narrow for not really a lot of room for 3 or 4 wide racing in the corners. We'll see how that works when we actually have a race there next year. But with this being said, this is big for Atlanta because, as I mentioned, a lot of drivers in the Cup Series, like Kevin Harvick, like Kyle Busch, like Martin Truex Jr., love to race on the old service. The Xfinity drivers, they love it. And you look at truck drivers. After the 2017 race in Atlanta for the Truck Series, Matt Crafton basically praised Atlanta Motor Speedway. Do not repave this track. You can run anywhere around here. It's a fun racetrack. It is a fun racetrack. But the tires get eaten up a lot. And it's costing, Goodyear pays a lot of money to bring in new sets of tires for these teams every single weekend. And especially when it comes to limited amount of tires that the Xfinity Series have, they're only limited to 5 sets of tires. The Cup Series is going to at least get 7 to 10 sets of tires for the weekend and for the races. The Xfinity Series are very limited on the tires. I think the Truck Series are in the same boat there. So with this being said, again, this is big for Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is big news in preparation for the next-gen car. I think they really want to see, with the repave, how the next-gen car will fare on this track. And then this track, in about 10, 15 years, will begin to age again and will go back to being bumpy. So the big question then is, as we're narrowing it down, in the corners, on the straightaways, on front and back, how will the racing product be? Well, they hope that this racing product will bring, this repave will bring exciting racing to Atlanta Motor Speedway and bring back some of the close finishes that we used to have. Because in years past, we really haven't had a lot of exciting finishes at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Though the Brad Keselowski-Kyle Larson battle in the 2017 race was a lot of fun to watch. Last couple of years, you know, if you have a good handling race car, like if you were Kevin Harvick, you could get up to about a 3-second lead, 4-second lead, and run away with the thing, and probably not, you know, you don't have to look back and have guys come at you and you don't have to worry about them. But this time, we want the competition to be a little bit closer. The competition this year, I feel like, in Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks is the closest it's ever been. And with Cup getting the brand new car next year that hopefully enhances the competition with some of the big budget teams and some of the lower budget teams, while also being a big reduction in the cost for how you make a stock car, this is going to be very interesting for how Atlanta Motor Speedway's racing product comes about. Can we see the finish with Bobby Labonte and Dale Earnhardt from the spring of 2000? Fuel mileage races, they're fun to watch. They could be a factor with these cars in this track next year. But the other question is, will the bottom groove be the preferred groove, or can guys run up towards the wall or in that sort of middle area where it's starting to narrow down now? Because we've seen guys run the bottom on the white or yellow apron of the racetrack, or should we call it Harvicking, because Kevin Harvick does that better than anybody else? Or will you go high, wide, and handsome like Kyle Larson? Will you be able to do that with the repave? Because when we repave racetracks, everybody wants to fight for the bottom, particularly at Kansas. When we repaved that track for 2012, everybody wanted to run the bottom. Nobody wants to run the top because it's not a lot of grip up there. Then as 2 years went by, we were able to see guys run the high side again and, you know, see a lot of different grooves where you can run up high and run down low and run through the middle all the time. At Texas Motor Speedway, before we got repaved, we could run the bottom, we could run the middle, we could run the top. Now, you pretty much have to run the bottom because turns 1 and 2 is flatter than 3 and 4. There's not a lot of grip on that racetrack, and, you know, kind of one of the reasons why the racing product there has kind of been subpar to kind of, I don't want to say it's awful. I don't want to be too harsh, but I feel like it's just not been exciting for the fans. Atlanta Motor Speedway is a fun track where you can move around, but as it narrows down, and with the repave, can you still run the bottom and the top as well? Those are questions that remain to be seen. We will have practice sessions for all these events that we will have next year. And they did mention, Atlanta Motor Speedway mentioned, I think Ed Clark's still the president. Maybe he retired. I can't remember. Anyways, Atlanta executives said that they were planning on having 2 Cup Series races and 2 Xfinity Series races next year. Remember, Cup has added Atlanta's second race this year to replace Kentucky, which the racing product there has been pretty meh the last couple years, and we decided to bring back another race for Atlanta, a little shorter distance than we have in the spring race. The 500-mile race is now a 400-mile race. So this is big news for Atlanta with their the first time since 2010 that we've had 2 Atlanta Motor Speedway races on the schedule in the same year. For the Cup Series, and that back then it used to be, we had it in the spring, but then we would have it also on Labor Day weekend. Well, not anymore. That's now Darlington's place. So this is big news for Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm excited to see how this goes, and hopefully the racing part next year will still be fun to watch. So I hope I give that the news out to you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below about Atlanta Motor Speedway repaving the track. Do you think it'll help the racing product, or do you think it'll probably be almost similar to what we have with Texas Motor Speedway? I don't think it will be, but the banking going from 24 to 28, I think that it can provide some good competition all around. Remains to be seen, so we will find out eventually. So in the meantime, subscribe, like. Thank you all for the support. I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, Atlanta Motor Speedway is getting a repave at long last. Have a good day.